I know, you've been hearing all these rumors about what happens in the MonsterVision chat room, and I swear that girl told me she was 18. But it can get pretty hairy in there on Saturday nights, so I would advise you to check it out, unless you have, at any time in your life, been married to me. That address is tnt.turner.com/MonsterVision, and yes, Yvonne, that does mean you.
Calling all mummies, ghouls, and vampires to Joe Bob's Rec Room now at tnt.turner.com/MonsterVision. Back to MonsterVision host Joe Bob Briggs and Trancers on TNT.
All right, nothing like executing Santa Claus to amuse those young viewers we have here on MonsterVision. I love Tim Thomerson in this movie. Tim has had an interesting career. He starred in dozens of these B-movies. He was Doll Man, if you remember that one. That's where he's a tough space cop from the future, and he travels to the South Bronx in the present only to find out that in Earth terms, he's only 12 inches tall. Very funny movie. But Tim was an assistant to the great acting teacher Stella Adler in New York, and then he was a stand-up comic for many years. And then he kind of hit his stride in the movie biz. But we show a lot of his movies around here on MonsterVision. Zone Troopers, that one where he plays a World War II soldier who meets outer space aliens behind Nazi lines. And Tim almost always works with outer space themes for some reason. And, of course, Tim starred in all 4 of the Trancers sequels, which came out in 91, 92, 94, and 95. I think they pretty much beat this baby into the ground. All right. Jack, Death, and Lena are on the run from L.A. cops because they just wasted Santa in the mall. Roll it. Singe that Santa. Make him suffer. I think the technical term for that would be Santicide.
What are you doing Saturday night? Hi, I'm Reno, the new MonsterVision mail girl, and I'd like you to hang out with me and the world-renowned drive-in critic, Joe Bob Briggs, on MonsterVision on TNT. Be there or beware.
You've got a date with Reno and Joe Bob Briggs for MonsterVision every Saturday night on TNT. Back to MonsterVision host Joe Bob Briggs and Trancers on TNT.
You know that little thingy that stops time for 10 seconds? That's my favorite gadget in the movie. That'd be advantageous in real life, don't you think? You know? Honey, I need you to go antiquing with me this afternoon. 10-second delay, she freezes, you run like hell. You can almost be in the car and backing out of the driveway before she snaps out of it. Anyway, this might be a good place to stop and do a little Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless, and to help us out with that is the TNT mail girl. Whoa! The delectable Reno.
Delectable?
Delectable, yeah. Means intelligent.
No, delectable means something that... No, I don't even want to think about what it means.
Oh, come on. You know, you're always reading things into what I say.
That's because what you're saying is not what you're really saying.
Well, most women would be flattered to be called delectable.
It makes me feel like a food product. So why don't we just read the letter, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Wow. Food product.
This is from Joanne Moore, and it's right off the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Bob, we used to love you before you started the political comments, but you finally ripped your britches with us. You are so obviously a Rush Limbaugh wannabe that we are totally disgusted. You Republicans think you have all the answers. Unfortunately, you're a little short on thinking. Your solution to the homeless problem, give them a 10, give us a break, like a little tip. Think of the kind of people who generally watch your MonsterVision. They probably tend to be more liberal than not. No self-respecting Republican could allow himself to watch horror movies, what with all those family values and all. You really have potential. It's too bad you can't control those chauvinistic tendencies. Joanne Moore and Kendra.
Way to go,
This woman called me a Republican.
Yes, she did. She did.
Wasn't it just 2 or 3 weeks ago that somebody wrote in calling me a puppet spokesman for the liberal agenda of Ted Turner, you know? She also called me a family values advocate and a chauvinist. You know, I've been called a lot of things in my life, but I have never been called a man with a consistent point of view. So I resent this letter. I'm not having a good night here because she's mad at me. You're mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Okay, what if I were to call you delectable?
You called me delectable? I'd make a tape of you saying that and give it out to all my friends.
You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Why? Are you saying that's pitiful?
No, I'm saying that's pathetic.
Let's just watch the movie, okay? What's today? What's today? Does the calendar say dog pile on Joe Bob Day today? What is this?
Back to MonsterVision host Joe Bob Briggs and Trancers on TNT.
Yeah. What is this?
PJ Man, just like you.
That is a 21-year-old Helen Hunt as Lena, who keeps having sex with Phil instead of Jack Death, one of the best running gags through the movie. This was, of course, long before Helen was famous in Mad About You and Twister. She was best known in Hollywood for being on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Do you guys know what role she had on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Helen Hunt? Murray's daughter. She was a child when she did that. And her only starring role at this point was in a 1983 movie called Quarterback Princess opposite Tim Robbins. She made quite a few TV movies. I thought the best one she made was Murder in New Hampshire, the Pamela Smart story. Remember that hot little teacher who had sex with her student and then got the guy to shoot her husband? Wow. Anyhow, Trancers was not exactly a breakthrough role for Helen. It was a low-budget flick, and it never did break out into general audience awareness. Of course, that's why we can afford it for MonsterVision, okay? All right, they're going to the paper mill, and why are they going to the paper mill? I forgot. Oh, yeah, they're looking for the old baseball player, Hap Ashby, so roll it. Why is it that whenever they show these homeless people in the movies, they always make it like bums from the Depression? Like this movie was made in 1985, but they go to Hobo Village. There wasn't any Hobo Village in 1985. There was a crackhead village, but they didn't carry sticks on their shoulders with little packages on the end wrapped up in a bandana. You know, they hit each other with sticks. You know, why do they do that? Somebody tell me.
Back to MonsterVision host Joe Bob Briggs and Trancers on TNT.
This whole movie is one long chase scene. My kind of flick. This is actually one of the better movies directed by Charles Band, who is pretty well known in Hollywood as being the master of the low-budget movie. He ran a company called Empire Pictures in the 80s, a company called Full Moon Pictures in the 90s, and now he has a new company. I think it's called Amazing Fantasy Entertainment or something like that. Anyway, Charlie grew up in the entertainment business. His father was an assistant to John Huston, the great director, and his father was also a screenwriter. He wrote The Red Badge of Courage, and he's a composer. In fact, his father often does the scores for Charlie's movies. But Charlie went in a little different direction. Charlie's first film came out in 1973, 1 year after Last Tango in Paris. And Charlie's film was called Last Foxtrot in Burbank. And he's directed about a dozen films since then, including the dreaded Metal Storm, which we sometimes have here, and the great Slime Glopola classic Parasite. But usually he just comes up with the idea for the movie and then he hires people to make it. And he loves sci-fi. Almost everything he does has some kind of sci-fi element. All right, let's move on. We're back at the cool Chinatown apartment, ready for the great conclusion to Trancers. Remember, only people with soft brains can be Trancers. Did you hear Jack Death explain that? That's why so many of these Trancers are mosh pit punk rock acid heads and biker types and L.A. cops. And come to think of it, that's probably why the Trancers live in L.A. in the first place. A brain vacation, you know. They specialize in brain vacations in that place.
Back to MonsterVision host Joe Bob Briggs and Trancers on TNT.
And so, Trancers ends in a really screwy way because now Jack Death is going to stay in the 80s instead of going back to the 23rd century where he belongs. So my question is, what happens to Phil? His brain is on hold, right? Where does he end up? That's why I don't like these time travel movies. They always give me a headache. Okie dokie, I want to mention one more time that next week the movies are Phantasm 2 and Child's Play, both 4-star classics from the 80s. The Tall Man stars in the second one, and the Killer Demon Doll stars in the first one. So, pure evil night on MonsterVision. And what else can I say? We're done. Did you guys hear the one about the 2 nuns who were painting a room in the convent? And the Mother Superior told them that they must not get even a drop of paint on their habits. So they talked it over for a while, and they decided to lock the door of the room and strip off their habits and paint in the nude. So they paint for a while, and there's a knock at the door. They say, "Who is it?" The voice says, "Blind man." So the 2 nuns look at each other, and they shrug, and they decide, well, there's no harm in letting a blind man into the room. So they open the door, the guy comes in, and he says, "Nice breasts, where do you want these blinds?" Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. How many women with PMS does it take to screw in a light bulb? 6. It just does.